Daniel Robert Larson was born on November 15, 1998 in Lancaster, California, to his parents Elizabeth Lee Scheimer and James Travis Larson. His parents were fairly young when they gave birth to him. While Elizabeth's age is not known, his father was only 20 at the time of his son's birth. Daniel's genesis could have been spurred by claims of his father being obsessed with sex, as claimed by Elizabeth. However, this is difficult to verify. In 2001, Daniel's mother gave birth to his late siblings, Joyetta and Olivia, who sadly passed away due to blood type incompatibility between the girls and their mother. Observing Daniel's facial features, including a thin, flat upper lip and small eye openings, it has been speculated that Daniel may suffer from fetal alcohol syndrome. However, this can't be proven, and furthermore, Elizabeth's impaired state adds complexity to the situation. When Daniel was a toddler, he was said to have been playmates with his neighbor's dog. In one of his TikToks, Daniel described himself as an animal murderer, describing how the dog impaled itself on a spiked fence while the two were playing.
Did you guys know I am an animal murderer? When I was a toddler, still in preschool, my neighbor had a dog, and that dog loved to play with me. I loved it when that dog got on top of me and rolled around. But that dog ended up, there was like a fence, right? And I was chasing this dog, and the dog started to jump over the fence. And you know, sometimes fences have these little spikes on the fence. It went straight down, right through his chest and killed him.
While Daniel was obviously not the one who killed the animal, this can be inferred as a starting point for his violent tendencies, which worsened as he got older. Following his parents' divorce in 2010, Daniel moved to Colorado with his mother. This is thought to have been the result of his father's poor treatment of Daniel. Supposedly, Travis saw his son as a lost cause, believing that his son would never improve or achieve anything significant in life. The decision to move was also influenced by Colorado's reportedly better mental and physical health support, opposed to California. Better physical care would also benefit Daniel's mother, who had suffered from lupus since the age of 20 and became wheelchair-bound as a result. According to his mother, Daniel, even from a young age, displayed severe signs of disabilities such as autism, bipolar disorder, and schizophrenia. This may be because his mother and possibly his father may be mentally challenged to some extent. It is unknown what conditions they suffer from. Daniel's childhood was wrought with tenuous claims of neglect and sexual abuse, which, if true, may have left him with childhood trauma which exacerbated his already chaotic behavior, as well as contributing to his later pedophilic tendencies. A health worker who claimed to have worked with Daniel claimed that he had a history of. Although what this means is unknown, it has also not been confirmed if this person actually helped Daniel, leaving its validity questionable at best. People would begin to speculate on Daniel being SA'd when his Quora page was discovered, and it was revealed that Daniel asked if anyone's mother had ever given them a handjob as a kid, with Daniel not knowing if this was abhorrent for a mother to sexually stimulate a child. However, I would like to note that this is pure speculation. Multiple people, several of which are former classmates of Daniel, have verified the claims of neglect. At about the age of 11, Daniel was taken away from his mother by the state of Colorado due to neglect, which Daniel and later a news report would reaffirm. Given the state's actions, it is likely that Daniel was being truthful regarding his later claims of neglect. Daniel claims that he bounced between 10 to 15 foster homes in the years following the state's intervention. This is evidenced by leaked documents that the Developmental Disabilities Resource Center sent to potential foster family/host homes. These documents warn families that Daniel has a history of property damage, kicking animals, self-injurious behavior, and verbally threatening or hitting providers when he's upset, which corroborates claims of him being extremely violent even in childhood. Elizabeth, Daniel's mother, has claimed that Nancy, her adopted mother, as well as Daniel's grandmother, spread lies about her abusing her son. But the validity of these claims has yet to be substantiated. However, it is highly unlikely that Elizabeth was stable enough to take care of Daniel, as she was wheelchair-bound, difficulty only added by Daniel's destructive behavior. Due to her disability, Elizabeth went into assisted living in 2015, when Daniel was around 16 to 17 years old. According to Flexberger, a future manager of Daniel was placed into several foster homes before his grandmother, Nancy Scheimer, was eventually granted the legal guardianship of him following a long custody battle. Despite her kinder treatment of Daniel, Nancy was known to be enabling of his bad habits. When Daniel was 3 years old, Nancy was said to have rewarded him with M&Ms after he had drawn on the walls of her home. Because of this enabling, Elizabeth and Travis tried to gain custody of their son but ultimately failed. When Travis tried to file for custody of Daniel, Nancy opposed it, claiming that Daniel didn't even know his father, raising serious doubts about their relationship. Due to the hostile accusations hurled during the custody disputes, Travis grew to despise Nancy and claimed that the only reason she had obtained custody of Daniel was due to her more stable financial situation. Unlike Travis, Elizabeth was eventually given visitation rights to see Daniel once more. After this, Daniel began attending the Tennyson Center for Children, an assisted living facility for schooling, rehabilitating, and assisting children with intellectual disabilities or who faced neglect, abuse, or other mistreatment. At this school, he would meet his mentor, Bob Proctor, via a reading buddy program wherein they played board games and read together. Even after the program concluded, Daniel and Bob still remained close. Daniel even made it on the news, evidenced by a 2012 news report on KWGN. While not entirely focused on Daniel, the clip documented his time at the Tennyson Center, in which he lived for over a year prior to Nancy gaining custody of him. Throughout his childhood, Daniel was almost exclusively referred to as Danny. He was even called this in his school's yearbook and in the news report he was featured in. According to his classmates, Daniel was a very violent person, even in class. One of his classmates refers to a time in which Daniel threw a chair at a window, which resulted in a light fixture being knocked down. According to this same classmate, Daniel had a habit of running in the hallways in an attempt to evade staff. Due to his troubled behavior, Daniel was assigned a guardian who followed him throughout the school day. When questioned, he asserted that this wasn't due to his lack of trustworthiness, but rather because of the positive relationship he had with his teachers. Just like his childhood, his time in school was wrought with alleged claims of mistreatment and bullying. Daniel claimed that the Tennyson Center was a very violent place. According to Daniel, the Tennyson Center had a brick room only lit up by a single window, dubbed the timeout room. Daniel claimed to have been placed in this room on several occasions for behavior such as excessive crying and not cooperating with teachers. Other students would be physically restrained due to violent behavior. However, this seems to have never happened to Daniel. When in school, Daniel claimed that children would tease him by calling him Danny Phantom, a nickname derived from the fictional character of the same name. According to a classmate, this seemed to have very little effect on him, with these claims of bullying only seeming to arise in adulthood. According to his LinkedIn page, Daniel was a volunteer dog walker for the Humane Society of Boulder Valley in January 2012, although there is little information regarding this occupation. Then, sometime in 2013, Daniel would allege that he was abused by a person named Ryan when he was around 15 years old. Although the validity of Ryan sexually assaulting Daniel is questionable, as information from the caretaker call implies that Daniel may have been the one to assault Ryan. Sometime in 2014, Daniel started attending and participating in several musical theater programs. It is unknown who introduced him to these programs and how he got accepted into them, but it is believed to have been due to his grandmother. It is also possible that Daniel's mother may have introduced him to it, as she also showed an interest in singing, just as Daniel would late in his life. Daniel is known to have participated in at least 8 different musicals, although he rarely got leading roles. His roles in these musicals may have set the groundwork for his desire to be famous. Daniel would begin attending Sobieski Academy in 2016, the same year it opened. It should be noted that Sobieski, while having a large population of children with special needs and behavioral issues, was not exclusively a special needs school. This was due to Sobieski being an alternative transitional school, which aimed to rehabilitate troubled students and prepare them for retransitioning with their district schools. Due to him never being reintegrated, there are questions surrounding the validity of his high school diploma. There is little known about Daniel's time in Sobieski, as Daniel seemingly hasn't talked too much about his high school years. opposed to his time in Tennessee Center, which he seems to hold in higher regard, though, according to one of his high school classmates, Daniel, even in high school, had an escort, which implies that Daniel had violent tendencies all throughout his teenage years. Despite his behavior being far less eccentric during his high school years, he was documented to have had occasional outbursts and meltdowns, during some of which he would hit himself. These outbursts would result in him being placed into close and lock, much akin to the punishment room at the Tennessee Center. The reason he is much worse now compared to his time in school could be due to that Daniel was heavily medicated when he attended Sobeski and Tennyson, whereas nowadays he almost always refuses to take antipsychotics. He was often described as someone who was quite a total wallflower and pretty normal. What's worthy of note as well is, despite Daniel being unable to do basic math, he would take Algebra 2. Little is known regarding Daniel's experiences in high school. However, he is known to have acted as one of the mascots for his school's softball team. Daniel was said to have been obsessed with singing even during high school. However, there were no mentions of Grace Vanderwall, though sometime when Daniel was around 17, he and his grandmother were watching America's Got Talent, and it is said that when Daniel was watching it with her, his grandma remarked that he may sing with her on stage someday. Despite the questionable validity of this statement, Daniel convinced himself, despite Grace being 12 at the time and Daniel being a few months from turning 18, that he was a part of Grace's life and had a relationship with her, and would begin his obsession over her. Much to everyone's surprise, Daniel, while still attending school, was arrested after an instance when he would physically assault his mother, who at that point was paralyzed from the waist down. Daniel claimed that the situation was a result of his mother cornering him, but when looking at his charges, this is likely untrue. Daniel would be imprisoned for 44 to 45 days following his arrest, delaying his graduation from Sobeski, with this incident forever ruining him and his mother's relationship. Daniel would then graduate from Sobeski Academy at the age of 19 in 2017, not attending a college or university afterwards. It is most likely that Daniel continued to live with his grandmother after this. 2019 appeared to be the year when Daniel lost two of the most important people of his life, when on April 11, 2019, Daniel had to put down Broadway, or more accurately, his grandmother's dog, due to her battle with cancer. Even more devastatingly, on July 24, 2019, Nancy, Daniel's grandmother, would pass away from cancer when Daniel was 21. It is likely that Daniel was still living with his grandmother at the time of her passing. On the day she died, Daniel was attending a Special Olympics event, during which he was informed of his grandmother being on her deathbed. Instead of going to comfort her at the hospice center, Daniel chose to stay at the event to prove that he was a fighter. This incident, though seemingly minor, reflects a profound lack of respect that Daniel had for his grandmother, as he couldn't even be bothered to be with her as she passed away. Following the death of his grandmother, Daniel was sent to a state-run group home for the disabled. Even at the age of 20, Daniel was still unable to take care of himself. This housing program gave him a job at a thrift store sometime in 2019. At this job, Daniel was said to have lost all of his money after falling victim to a gift card scam, wherein which an obvious catfish convinced him to go to Walmart, buy $500 in Visa gift cards, and send the money to them, losing all of the money he had gained. Then, sometime in 2019, Daniel began posting on TikTok on his account daniellarsonwiki, but wouldn't really post much. He was also using the other social media sites such as Twitter and Instagram. It is unknown how he obtained a phone, though it is likely he bought it with the income from his job at the thrift store. On Twitter, he would post about his experiences in the Special Olympics as well as videos of him hiking. Daniel, opposed to what he'd become later in his life, seemed to be more physically fit as he was enrolled in the Special Olympics and hiked frequently. He often posted the amount of steps he'd attained on his Fitbit from these hikes. Daniel's 21st birthday also fell in 2019. On his Twitter account, he posted his excitement at being able to go to casinos and being able to legally drink. At his birthday dinner, Daniel would drink a margarita. Then, in February of 2020, Daniel became convinced that he was a fashion model. He applied to a scam talent agency called Southwest Model and Talent Agency, who would accept anyone as long as they paid. At this modeling agency, Daniel would star in a fashion show and have skincare products applied to him prior to it, with this supposedly costing Bob Proctor over $15,000. However, it is worth noting that these accounts would not gain much of a following, with that being reserved for his future TikTok account, Daniel Larson Fans, created in the following month, which would gain a significant following of trolls and kickstart his horror story. But that is for another video.